My guest is Mark Messier. He is a Hockey Hall of Famer, six-time Stanley Cup champion, first and only player to captain two different teams to the Stanley Cup, two-time Hart Memorial Trophy winner as the NHL's MVP, brand captain for Akeso Hemp Powered Hydration. You can follow him on Instagram at @TheRealMarkMessier. Mark, it's an honor to have you on Sports Business Radio. How are you?
Well, I'm doing great. Great to be on with you.
So let's start by talking about your partnership with Akeso. I have never heard of such a company that is hemp-powered hydration. Explain to us the product and how you got involved with them. Are you still there?
Oh, sorry, the connection. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So explain to us the product and how you got involved with Akeso.
Yeah, interesting question, and something that, for me, I played professional hockey up until I was 43, 44 years old. Was always into new techniques, new design technology. And if you can imagine, I played in 4 different decades. So I really saw the transformation of our game in so many different ways, from equipment standards to practices to off-ice training to supplements to nutrition. And it's one of the things that really kind of allowed me to stay healthy and fit and play till I was at the age of 43, 44, 26 years pro. In retirement, 43, 44, starting a young family, wanted to make sure that I was able to run around and play with the kids and be able to keep up and live a super healthy life, active life. I'm very active in all sports. I work out, I playing, fishing, hiking, spending time outdoors, and wanted to be able to do it without a lot of problems. I'd heard a lot of stories about CBD and its efficacy from people that had been struggling with their health in their joints, in pain and things, and just more and more stories started to come up with the people using CBD. I became interested in their own journeys of how it was helping them. I think we all were fascinated by the young girl who had many seizures and traditional medicines weren't helping her, and she finally was introduced to an extraction of a marijuana plant when they were able to extract the CBD, and how it helped her stop her seizures. I think the world kind of started to take notice then about the efficacy of that, other than traditional medicines. And for myself as an athlete, how do you stay hydrated without pouring all the sugar into you and getting all the effects and benefits from CBD? I was approached by Akeso and the people behind it of their sports performance water. I tried it, I looked into it, and I said, if you can get hydrated with a tasty drink of water, you can get 10 milligrams of CBD and you can get some electrolytes and then the benefits of some stress relief and anxiety, I'm going to sign up for that. Huh. And that's exactly what happened. I believe in the product. I'm using the product. It's a refreshing drink of water without all the sugars added to it. And so we can call ourselves a sports performance hydration beverage. And I think that's pretty appealing to me anyways.
I'm sure over the last 25, 30 years, you've been approached by many companies to work with them. What are the qualities and traits that you look for before you say yes to working with a company?
Very simple. I thought I was in the hockey business for 26 years, but when I retired, I realized I was in the people business. And it's all about galvanizing people together to share a dream and work together for a common goal. And so the first thing that I've always done is I've made an effort to get to know the people behind any of the products that I ever endorsed or got involved with, and make sure I felt comfortable with the vision, the direction, the character, the qualities that afforded me success, aligning with people that had the same kind of aspirations as I did. I don't think it's any different in business. So that's the first one. Second one is that I have to be able to believe in the product and want to use the product. And to me, hydration was something that became very key in my own experiences as a professional athlete, especially down in the playoffs when it became very hot and humid in the rinks. I saw where players got hydrated and were hooked up to IV bottles late in playoff games. It hindered their performance, and so I was well aware of how being dehydrated can make cowards of the best players in the world if they didn't take care of it. So, and then of course all the benefits that with hydration with the CBD, it just seemed to be an amazing product. And so, I spent enough time talking to the people how they're able to infuse the CBD into the water without any kind of taste, which was incredibly innovative, and to do it without all the harmful effects of a lot of sugar. So that's really the simple answer of the process that I take to align myself with any person or any company.
I want to talk some hockey with you. I'm actually based in Portland, Oregon, and my research tells me that you lived in Portland for a little bit. Did your dad play for the Portland Buckaroos?
Well, long history. My dad was a professional hockey player and he played for the Portland Buckaroos back in the 60s. So I was born in Edmonton, Alberta in 1961. He was traded quickly after that to Portland from the Edmonton Flyers. And I spent the first 6-7 years of my life in Portland, Oregon. We lived in Beaverton.
Wow.
And we had a cabin up in the rhododendron on the base of Mount Hood. And so I spent my childhood fishing along the Zigzag River and up and down the mountain there. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. And then, of course, years later, when I was 16 years old, I got a chance to play for the junior hockey for the Portland Winterhawks in the same building that my father played in. So it was really gratifying to be able to do that and bring it back home to Portland.
How did you first get introduced to hockey? Obviously, you have a dad who played, but like at what age did you say, this is something that I really want to do the rest of my life?
Well, I remember living in Portland, going with my dad to his practices before I was in school. And I had a chance to skate before their players got on the ice because, there wasn't much hockey in Portland. There was zero hockey at the time. My father was actually the one who started the whole minor league hockey program in Portland back in the 60s. So that was my first introduction to hockey. Of course, everybody wants to be like their dad. I saw my dad playing hockey. I have very vague memories of going to the games and sitting behind the net and watching him. I was probably 6 years old, so it's very vague. But I do remember traveling with him to the rink and skating before with my older brother. And so my earliest introduction to hockey was actually in Portland, Oregon.
Wow, that's amazing. You are one of the great leaders in the history of sports, any sport. Again, 6 Stanley Cups, the only player to captain 2 different teams, the Oilers and the Rangers, to Stanley Cups. Mark, what makes for a good leader? We have a lot of people who listen to this show who are not only sports leaders, but business leaders. What makes for a good leader?
Yeah, that's a secret question. You get asked that often, and I don't know if there's any one thing that makes a great leader. I think there's many different styles of leadership. For me, I always felt that I was never a player that could carry a team by myself, and so all of my success came from the inclusion of everybody and making everybody feel responsible, making everybody and holding everybody accountable. And anything other than your best wasn't good enough for each and every player, no matter how much they played, whether you're the top minute guy or the least amount of player in minutes. Everybody had to do their job and do it well, and then be praised for it. Trust is something that you can never discount. Abraham Lincoln said that no man can govern another without his consent. You have to earn the trust of the players in order to lead them. And that takes a lot of effort away from the rink to get to know each and every individual personally and figure out where they've come from, what motivates them, what issues they might have that are holding them back from reaching their potential. And you create, in my experiences anyways, we tried to create a real family atmosphere where we were a brotherhood and we were looking out after each other. and you share hopefully you find something that can, galvanize the team together, a certain motivation, and it can be different every year. You just never know where that motivation is going to come from, but ultimately, everybody has to feel really good about the position that they're on the team. They have to feel good about their participation in the success of the team, and trust is just a massive factor, in my opinion.
I think the Oilers are one of the most underrated dynasties in sports history. 5 Stanley Cups. What was it like when you had it going, and it was the glory days there in Edmonton? The games are sold out. You played with Wayne Gretzky. That must have been quite an amazing feeling.
It was one of the most incredible experiences of my life, to be honest with you. We all started there when we were 18 years old in an expansion team in my hometown. I knew what NHL hockey meant to the people in Edmonton. I know we got the WHA came in as the other pro league in the early 70s, and it was amazing. But it still wasn't the NHL. I had many aunts and uncles and relatives that were either Montreal Canadian fans or Toronto Maple Leaf fans, and so I knew the power of the NHL. And to have a NHL franchise come to Edmonton, it was, nobody could believe it, to be honest with you. We're 18 years old. We come into the league. We have some older veterans on the team, but a lot of young guys in the first 2 or 3 years, weaving our way through the professional life as a young kid. And of course, there's this little skinny kid called Wayne Gretzky that changed the face of the game forever. And we were lucky to have him on our side. And it became very apparent quickly that Wayne at some point was going to win a Stanley Cup. So we wanted to figure out a way how we could contribute to that success in any way we could. And we formed an amazing alliance as a brotherhood between, the core group of players that were there for many years. And we're able to go on and win, 5 Stanley Cups in 7 years, actually six finals in 8 years. But it was an amazing run, and all led by Wayne and the other great players that were alongside for the ride.
That was remarkable. But I got to tell you, Mark, I think what you did in New York was even more remarkable. A 54-year drought for the New York Rangers. You go there, and one of the hardest things to do in sports is change a culture, especially a losing culture. You went in there and led them to a Stanley Cup. And I think that was one of your more remarkable achievements in your career. What was it like to go in and change a culture of a franchise?
Very interesting. I'd been a part of the culture from the beginning in Edmonton that we built. And I became very aware of the culture that we built, because some players would come in and they weren't able to latch on to the culture for some reason or another. But it became very apparent when they couldn't. And if you do have a strong culture, the decisions that you have to make on player evaluation become very easy there, because they're either in or they're out. And we built that in Edmonton. So I didn't think much of it till I got to New York and realized that the culture needed to be changed. And the one thing you can't be afraid is to articulate what you're trying to do as a team. In our sport, we're trying to win a Stanley Cup. So if you're not willing to talk about winning a Stanley Cup and how you're going to try to win a Stanley Cup and the roadmap to get to the Stanley Cup, and everything you do is going to be based on whether that gives us a better chance to win the Stanley Cup or that gives us a worse chance to win the Stanley Cup. But if you have that in your mindset all the way through, and you're not afraid of the pressures that put on each and every individual, from the players to the coaches to the managers to the owners, then you can start to kind of really work towards achieving it. It was something that was not welcome to talk about it, because for many different reasons that we don't need to get into, but I think we're able to change that over time in the 3 years that I was there. One thing I didn't really anticipate was not being able to talk about all the experiences I had in Edmonton, because what became apparent to me at the time was that the players in New York didn't care about what happened in Edmonton. The only thing they cared about was going to happen in New York with them. So we had to kind of go through all these experiences together, all the while knowing, what was right, what was wrong from the past, 10 years, 12 years in Edmonton, but had to relive it with the players in New York, earn their trust to lead them, go through the failures, the ups and downs, celebrate the victories and the small steps towards it, with all the while not taking our eye off what we're there for, and to make sure that we started talking about it. And in fact, by the third year, when Mike Keenan came in, the first thing he did in training camp was to show us the 1986 ticker tape parade with the New York Mets. And so everybody started to envision what it would be like for us to win a Stanley Cup. And here we are now 53, 54 years later, and never been done. And now we're 84 years later or more and counting, with only one Stanley Cup. So it was a remarkable achievement with a remarkable team of players that sacrificed everything they had to get the job done. But one thing I keep getting back to is that everybody knew what the goal was, and everybody was working day in and day out to try to achieve it.
From everyone I've ever talked to who's played in New York or worked for a sports team in New York, they say winning a title in New York is just different. Like, you're never going to buy another dinner there. It's amplified there more than any place else. The sports fans are so diehard. Has that been your experience?
It was an amazing experience in that regard, in every way. I think when I got to New York, I understood that the original six, the history, the challenges that the team had, the failures that the team had, the successes that the team had, but all the successes were always met with failures in the end. So anytime in that great season that we had in 93, 94, when we would set a team record, we were always reminded that, that happened in 1970, whatever, and then the team lost. So we kind of kept our focus in on what we were trying to accomplish. We never let that kind of drag us down. We played fearless. All the team's past success didn't alter our mindset. It didn't alter our confidence. We just kept plugging away. We were a very confident team, and when we finally won, it was just incredible, actually, to see the reaction. When I got to New York, I got to know a lot of fans. I really, I knew about the fan base, but until you actually experience it, and don't forget, the first year we won the President's Trophy. The second year we didn't even make the playoffs, so we rode this huge wave all the way up the curve, all the way down to the deepest depths of despair that you can imagine, by losing and not even making the playoffs, which had only been done for a team that won the President's Trophy and then missed the playoffs the next year. I don't think it had ever been done. Then the third year, going all the way back up the roller coaster to the pinnacle and winning the Stanley Cup. But I think that's one of the things that made the title and Stanley Cup so special, is that I understood the passion on a deeper level, having been part of that losing season, and being a focal point of that for many different reasons. But it also is what made the championship so special, and I think what cemented the relationship with that team, with the fans, even more so.
Mark, just a few minutes left before I let you go. The state of the NHL, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't feel like I know many of the hockey players personally. I feel like I know NBA players, NFL players, some of the baseball players. The hockey players, I don't feel like I know them very well. What can the NHL do to make the hockey players more marketable, or introduce them to the fans a little bit more?
Yeah, that's a great question. Hockey fans traditionally, or hockey players traditionally, have always been, it's such a team game. Everything is about the team in hockey. You can't win alone in any sport. Certainly you can't win alone in hockey. So everybody is taught from a very early age there that it's all about the team, which is exactly what you need to do in order to be successful. And everything is geared towards the team. And so it's hard for players to make that transition from, a spokesperson or stepping outside the team to do anything, because of the fear of being labeled whatever. And traditionally it's been hard. I think we're doing a better job now. I think social media has made a difference in that regard, where players can express themselves a little more openly without any kind of backlash. And I just think we've come a long way in the game of hockey, believe me, as far as marketing and not only the game itself, but the individual players. And really, it gets down to the individual player themselves of how they want to present themselves to the world. Some players don't want to do that. Other players are a little more apt to kind of do it and show a little more of their personality away from the game and all that. So I think it's really an individual choice. I don't think it's a league problem. I think our game has been, with the new TV contracts over the last 5-10 years, I think, with the HD TV, it's way easier to follow on TV now. The business has grown, so obviously things are stable in that regard. And I don't think, to be honest with you, I don't know if the league has ever been as competitive as it is. And it seems like every team has great young players that come into the teams every year, and there seems to be a superstar on almost every team. So I think the appetite for the games is high. I enjoy watching the games. I mean, I spent my whole entire life playing hockey, and I still love watching the games on when I get a chance at night. So and keeping up with the players and what's going on, and the taglines and the stories behind the scenes and all that. So I like where the game is at. And to your point there, I think there's so many interesting stories and so many interesting players that could be told. But it's really up to the individuals of how deep they want to take it. And as you can see in other sports, some players take it further than others. And so I think it's more of an individual choice.
All right, before I let you go, how does a kid from Canada wind up owning the Runaway Hill Club in the Bahamas, where you fly the Canadian flag there at the resort? That looks like a nice place, man.
Yeah. I grew up, outdoors, hunting, fishing, outdoors, anything to do with outdoors. I love the water. The water was somewhere that I could get on in the off season and really kind of seem to get away from everything after a hard season. As a captain, I just wasn't living my own life. I had to live 30 lives during the course of regular season, and it was exhausting, to be honest with you. And so the summers, I really took time to recharge myself, and I found that being on the water was a way I could really do that and get away from everything. And started, I fished my whole life on freshwater rivers and lakes and all that. Got down to Hilton Head in '91. Started going 80 miles offshore in a little center console boat at 3 a.m. and
Wow.
fishing there. And ultimately got down to the Bahamas, which I fell in love with, and bought a 55-foot sport fisherman, and we'd go off for months at a time fishing up and down the Bahamian Islands, and stopped here in Harbor Island, and fell in love with the island. Fell in love with the people. Came up to Runaway Hill here, and started talking to the previous owners, and thought this would be a good place to hang my hat in retirement after I was playing. So that was back in, so from 95, first came down here, or 94 after we first won the Stanley Cup. And then 2003, we got the hotel, and been hanging out here ever since, any chance I get.
Michael Jordan's a big fisherman. Have you guys ever gone fishing? Two greats of sports history.
He's got a beautiful boat as well. He loves the water. Tiger loves the water. There's a big adventure out there. As my captains used to say, there's no fences when you get out of the marina. And we've seen a lot of amazing stuff. We've had a lot of amazing times with family and friends. My kids growing up on the water and seeing some things that you would never see if you never got on the water. So the adventure for me was just so incredible that it's something that I'll continue to do, and look for newer, greater adventures every year.
Mark Messier joining us on behalf of Akeso Hemp Powered Hydration, Hockey Hall of Famer, 6-time Stanley Cup champion. Make sure to follow him on Instagram at @TheRealMark Messier. Mark, it's a pleasure to speak with you. Best of luck in the future, and hope you catch some big fish out there.
I'm looking forward to it. All the while staying hydrated.
That's right.